Hi, we're back, and I'm Kay Johnson, and this is my co-host Elizabeth, and we're here to do Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers. And so what have you been reading, Elizabeth?
Well, I've been kind of starting new series and attempting to start new series as well as finishing some up. So I found a new series. I won this book in a giveaway on Facebook. And the first one is called The Little Shop of Found Things, and it's by Paula Braxton. And so far there are 2 books in this series, and the first one is The Little Shop of Found Things, and the second book is Secrets of the Chocolate House.
Okay.
So the main character, I think it's pronounced Xanth. It's Xanthe.
Xanthe.
Xanthe. Well, I'm glad you know, because I didn't know and I pronounced it wrong the entire time I read it in my brain.
The only reason I know is because a friend of mine has a friend named Xanthe.
Ah, well, good. So Xanthe is the main character in this book, and she has a special gift. She can hold an object and know either who built it or who bought it and why it was important. So these old antiques. And what she and her mother call it is, they say these objects sing to her. So she hears them calling to her and picks them up and then figures it out. So her and her mother have started an antique bookstore, or going to open an antique bookstore. An antique store. I've been reading one about a bookstore owner too, can you tell? I'm getting them confused. I think I need a reading break, but I can't do that.
No.
It doesn't happen. So anyway, they moved to this small town in England, and they're going to open an antique store. They have purchased, I believe a gentleman passed away, and so they bought the store, lock, stock, and everything. And so they're moving in, and she finds this decorative chain that would have been worn on a dress in the 1800s. And so when she holds it, she can hear somebody yelling for help. And so she's holding it, and she's in the back of her backyard. She goes into her shed and falls through time and winds up back in the 1700s.
I'm glad I don't have a shed like that.
I know. So it's her going back and forward in time, and the first book is to save this servant who's been accused of stealing items that should have been on this chain she found. So that's the connection between the item that's taking her back in the past. And so in that first book, she's going back and forth trying to save this young servant. And then in the second book, with the help of a hot chocolate pot, because apparently they used to have hot chocolate was you didn't make it at home. You went to a social house for hot chocolate back during the same time period. So she goes back again to then save a character from the previous book in this book, and also meets up with someone else who can also time travel, who is not as nice as she is.
Is it good?
It is. They're very good books. I told a friend of mine, I said it's Outlander-esque without the 7,000 pages to get through.
That's good.
I read both of these books in 3 days.
And you read books, not audio?
Audio books. I read them. I got this one, like I said, on the first one on Facebook, and I took it with me on vacation, and I finished it. And I managed to con my mother-in-law into purchasing the second book and letting me read it before I left so she could read both of them.
Ah.
So I didn't have to pay for the book. So see, I got to read a new book without actually having to buy it. It worked out in my favor this time. And the second book ends with a cliffhanger ending that lets you know the series is going to go on, but the second book just came out 2 months ago. So now I'm going to have to sit and wait.
Probably like a year.
But I really enjoyed these books. The people that she meets that live in this little village are really nice. There's a lady that works across the street who has a bakery who is always dressed up in 1940s outfits. There's the good-looking car mechanic who lives down the road who can help out with anything. And then the family that own the local pub down the street. And so the characters are really lovable. The relationship between her and her mom is really kind of sweet, and both of them are getting through tough times in their lives. So they're just nice books and they're quick reads, and I really enjoyed them. And
Wow.
yeah, it's been a while, but I don't have either of them here with me, obviously, because I left them in California when I came back from vacation. But I really enjoyed them. So pretty covers, which is always nice.
That's always nice.
Even though you can't judge books by their covers, it helps if they look pretty.
Yeah, that's true.
What else have you been reading? I won't monopolize all the time here.
I have started reading, and I'm about halfway. The Boys of Winter. It's the story of the 1980 hockey team.
Ah, Miracle.
Miracle on Ice. But this is blow by blow of the actual game
Oh, okay.
against the Russians. But it takes, the author does an interesting thing. He sets the book at Herb Brooks's funeral.
Oh, interesting.
And Herb Brooks was a coach of the Miracle on Ice team in 1980 at the Olympics. And so it talks about, as people are coming to the funeral and flashing back and stuff. So it's really good. It's called Boys of Winter. It's by a guy named Wayne Coffey.
Interesting.
So, so I recommend that one. And then, let's see, I'm on a nonfiction kick. And another one I read.
I can't help you with the nonfiction books this time.
That's okay. This one came up on my Facebook feed.
Okay.
And it's called Midnight in Chernobyl by a guy named Adam Higginbotham.
I think that's on my want to read list.
Yeah, and it's called The Untold Story of the World's Greatest Nuclear Disaster. And it's interesting because my sister Jill heard a podcast with the author.
Okay.
And she said it sounds really good. And I said, well, I just downloaded it. Yes, I paid $14.99 for this one.
You and them $14.99s.
I know. They've raised the price. It just kills me. But this one's interesting because it starts out, as people know, Chernobyl was in Russia and there was a nuclear meltdown and the land is...
Yeah. It's not good.
Yeah, not good is right. So anyway, it starts out with this guy who is with a group of soldiers, and they've gone through like nuclear training, and they drive around the plant all the time, checking,
monitoring everything.
Yeah. And anyway, they're driving around one day, and all of a sudden their machine just goes nuts, and they look, and the roof's gone. It's like melted, and they're
no.
we need to get out of here. That was like the end of the first chapter.
Yeah.
So that was pretty exciting. And then it starts with this poor guy who got the job of building Chernobyl. And this was in Russia, and this is back in the communist days. And so he talks about how, or the author talks about how every piece of equipment they got to build, they had to tear down and rebuild because they were made so shoddy. And they had to replace everything. And lots of the parts would be sidetracked, and they wouldn't get what they were supposed to. So they were always jerry-rigging things.
Okay.
So no wonder the thing melted.
Did you see the HBO miniseries, Chernobyl?
No, I did not.
Very well done.
Is it called Chernobyl?
It's called Chernobyl, and Jeremy Harris is in it, as well as last name Skarsgård.
Oh, yeah.
He played Will Turner's dad in Pirates of the Caribbean, and he's in the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but I can't think of his first name.
I can't either. He's Danish.
Skarsgård's the last name anyway. If you can probably picture him, maybe Matt will put a picture of him here in the spot. I don't know, but they're the two main characters that the show follows. But it's a really well done miniseries.
Is it HBO?
It's HBO, yeah. But as it's HBO, and as HBO tends to do, they don't pull punches on how some of these people died. You know, the people that were at the plant that night when everything went bad. So there were parts that I just turned away, and then Tom would tell me when it was safe and not gory for me to watch it again. But it is really interesting to go through and hear it all, and because it's a topic that you don't know much about. I think the last time before this came out that you heard about Chernobyl is I think there's a horror movie called Chernobyl that came out like maybe 6-7 years ago.
Well, who was I talking to that said that the wolves were back? and that the animals are returning, even
Yeah.
though people can't live there.
Yeah, I've heard that too. But so it's really interesting about how, like in the movie, or in the TV show, they talk about how they were having this meeting and they were like, oh, well, their Geiger counters are only going up to this, so it's really not that bad. And Jeremy Harris's character goes, well, the only reason your Geiger counters are going up that high is that is how high your meters go.
So in other words,
you have to take this machine in and go check it out. And then the people running the plant, then they got in trouble because
Yeah.
everybody had been there. But I mean, it is really, it's a part of history you don't know too much about because of the Iron Curtain
Yes.
and everything. So,
Yeah, so I thought it would be good, and
I just have to steal your whole Kindle at some point because you have all the books that I want to read right there.
yeah, and
Yeah.
but we can loan them back and forth, I think. So we need to figure out how to
Yes.
do that,
We
or
do.
if we have to set up an account and work through it. I don't know.
know.
But it's Midnight in Chernobyl by
Okay.
Adam Higginbotham, and
Okay.
it's got a great beginning, and I recommend it because it seems like it's going to be good. And it's not too technical. Sometimes these kind of books can be really technical, and like I know anything about.
Well, sometimes fiction books can be way too technical. Like if you pull out Jurassic Park,
oh yeah, that
they
can
could
be.
pull out whole chunks of the science.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and the thing that's interesting about that is it's wonky science. I mean, they're using legitimate science with a fictional
Yeah.
premise.
I know.
So that's interesting. So yeah, so this is good. So although I'm only into chapter 2, it's good.
Okay.
So what else are you reading?
Well, I went on a mystery kick. The first one is the book sitting here. This is a young adult book. It's called The Gallery. And the story is told from the point of view of, what is her name? Martha, who is a maid in the Sewell house. And so the Sewell family, it's just a husband and wife. The husband owns a bunch of newspapers, and the wife is crazy and is kept locked up in the attic.
Well, there we go.
And so when the book opens, Martha is like 100 and some years old, and a reporter comes and wants to interview her because back when Martha worked at the house, one night there was a terrible fire, and both Rose and her husband died in the fire.
Okay.
And there was a huge gallery of paintings that Rose had collected when she was younger, before she got married, and that was all destroyed. And nobody knows what happened that night because none of the staff ever talked, including Martha. So at 104, she now, because she knows she's going to die soon, is writing her story of what happened that night. So I thought it was really good. Lots of twists and turns, especially when it turns out that Rose is not crazy, but being driven crazy. And then how she, even though she's trapped in this upper room, she's able to use her, the artwork she has to communicate what's happening to her and ask for help of the maid. So there's a really good twists. Didn't see them coming, which is I can usually figure those out in young adult books, so that was a nice change. And this one was a quick read too. I read this one I think in an afternoon. And it was really funny because a lot of books I've been reading have a lot of small print. So it was really nice to open the book and see it. Yeah, this one's not going to take me too long.
Big print.
I can see it from down here. It's perfect.
Yes, it's perfect.
And then, so I read that one, which I really enjoyed. And then I went on a cozy mystery kick. And the first one I read was an MC Beaton series, the first book in the Agatha Raisin series called The Quiche of Death. I'd heard really good things about Miss Agatha Raisin. They were lies. I got halfway through the first, so the premise of the first book, Agatha Raisin, she is, in my opinion, not a likable character. I did not care what happened to her, but she was a publicist in London, and she retires and is going to live in this small little village and retire and have a quiet life. But she doesn't know anybody. So she figures the way to get to know people and to impress them and get people to like her is to win the local quiche contest.
What a bad idea.
Well, here's another problem. Agatha doesn't bake. So she goes to London and purchases a quiche and enters it into the competition as her own. And then she gets mad when she loses and doesn't take it home with her, and so the judge does, and he promptly dies that night after eating her quiche. So she has to go
And
around
had
and
she eaten it, we wouldn't have any more books.
I know, which would be fine.
Yes, I'm thinking the same.
So, and so then, she follows the cozy mystery series of then deciding she's going to solve it on her own, and hijinks are supposed to ensue. I didn't care what she did. I did not care if I finished the book. I would have been perfectly fine if Agatha Raisin would have been murdered.
Or you were going to murder her.
Because, and I think I texted you partway through and I said, I don't even know if I can finish this, but I was already like 5 hours into it and there were only 8 hours, and I was like, well, then I might as well finish it, but I didn't like it. I have no desire to read any more of them. I am sorry if you are watching this and you are an Agatha Raisin fan. Maybe it changes.
It gets better, maybe.
But
I never read
can't
beyond
do
the
it.
first one either.
No, I was excited because I was like, oh, this is a big long series, and they're gonna be quick, and I can listen to them and I can enjoy it. No, I didn't even like the person that was reading them. So
At double
yes,
zero.
no. So then I moved on to a different series. So this is called the Booktown Mystery Series by Lorna Barrett. And the first one is called, I love the titles of all these. So the first one is The Murder is Binding, and the second one is Bookmarked for Death.
Ah.
Do you want to guess what this woman does?
I would say something with a
So-
bookstore.
Trisha Miles is the main character, and she owns a mystery bookstore called Haven't Got a Clue in a small town of Stoneham, New Hampshire. And the head of the Chamber of Commerce brought in a bunch of booksellers to revitalize downtown and turn Stoneham into a book buying destination.
That's kind of cool.
Yes. Though a lot of so you have the locals and the people that own these bookstores. And so the series follows Trisha, and her sister Angie comes in, and Trisha, of course, lives above the bookstore, and she has a cat named Mrs. Marple. And so in the first book, the owner of the cookbook store next to hers is murdered, and she gets involved and has to solve that one. And the second one, she invites an author to come and do a book signing, and the author is murdered in the bathroom at her store.
There we go.
So these ones are really good. I really liked the different characters that were in this. Trisha's a really sweet character, but I have decided that I have figured out and solved the cozy murder mystery layout that all writers use. She is a single woman who is either recently divorced or widowed. She lives above her bookstore, which only sells one kind of book. She has a cat with a book name, and somebody's going to die in her store forever, and it never happens until the book series starts.
Yes, that's right.
Everything was fine, and now every year since, somebody finds a dead body.
Yes.
And I mean, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I think all of them, except for one I tried to read, and I couldn't finish it, have single women with cats. The one I didn't... Bookstore owners. I'm not calling out. Well, at least you haven't found any dead bodies that I know about.
Thank God.
If you start finding dead bodies, I'm going to have to move further away than Cokato. But I really liked this series. All the different people that are in it, like the lady that works in the Chamber of Commerce office, her name is Franny, and she's a Texan who loved winter, so she moved up there, but she always wants to retire to Hawaii. So she wears big floral prints, and there's this big personality. Her sister Angie is newly single and decides that she wants to reconnect with Trisha, so shows up in Stoneham and decides to stay and winds up opening a cooking store. And it's just her boy, and then her main love interest is the guy that writes for the newspaper. So she finds the dead body in her store, and he invites her over for dinner and says he's going to make her comfort food and support her, and he's really trying to pump her for information.
Of course he is.
He can use it as story.
Never trust a reporter. I know.
So it's really, they're interesting. They're really good. I got through the first 2 audiobooks really quickly and then found out that the library system does not have the next 3, so I have to order them and read them. But that'll be fine. But it's just kind of annoying. It was like, these are so good. So I tried to start another cozy mystery series, and the first one was called, what was it? The second book in the series is Dim Sum of All Fears, because they all take place in a Chinese restaurant. And yeah,
Good.
that didn't go well. No.
Oh,
There's
I've looked at those, but I've never.
that was a little too far, cozy mystery, I guess. I guess I need to stick to like the bookstores
Not the Chinese
and the
restaurants.
bakeries and not that. It just I couldn't really get into it. And I don't know if maybe I just got a little burnt out on
Cozies?
cozies, but I like cozies. They're quick.
Yeah.
I like the layout. I know what's going to happen.
Predictable. There's something good about predictable.
There is. It's kind of nice to pick up a book and figure out the layout. And the other thing I think is interesting with cozy mysteries is usually when you're reading them, you can figure out who the bad guy is they should stay away from.
Yes.
Before
They usually tell you,
you get to the
he's
point
a
in the
bad
book.
guy. You
Yeah.
should stay away from him.
Gee, I wonder, he's a little odd. And it's like, well, I think we figured out who this killer is, but we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Or they're going to do something dumb, like go and see them on their own.
Yes,
and then they're gonna
always
try
something
to burn
dumb.
down the house, and you don't want to do anything to me because of this. And it's like, well, sort of like Murder, She Wrote and all of those. where-
Yes, that's right. That's right.
What else have you been reading since I've monopolized now
Well,
probably the full
I've
time?
actually just downloaded a sample,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to get the book because it's good. It's called
$14.99.
Camino Island. What was it?
$14.99.
Yeah, no, it's $12.99, I think. But I'm going to get this one from the library because I'm
Okay.
not committing to long-term relationship. But it's by John Grisham.
Okay.
It's called Camino Island, and his second one in this series, Camino Winds, just came out.
Okay.
And I did put a request in on that, and I think I'm number 8 or something on that one. But Camino Island, the sample, which is literally like the first 20 pages, no, maybe 30 pages, I don't know. But it's about 5 guys, and they decide they're going to steal the original manuscripts of F. Scott Fitzgerald's books from the Yale Library at Yale University.
Okay.
And it's pretty interesting because they have one guy who worked for the CIA, who's
Okay.
like a computer hacker, and he can create documents and stuff. And then one, they've got a motley collection of
Yeah.
talent. And so one steals the name of some professor and goes in and cases a joint to figure out how it's set up. And he goes a couple times, and then they dress up like students and they do all this stuff. And eventually what they do is to actually do the robbery, they set off smoke bombs in the dormitories. And of course, and firecrackers. So they think that's a shooter, and bodies. So one of the guys calls the police and says, "There's bodies down. There's a shooter. So it's complete bedlam, and they're trying to lock it down. And so meanwhile, these guys are robbing the library.
Yeah.
And so anyway, in the process of robbing it, one guy cuts his finger, and of course, DNA. And so the FBI finds it and runs it and finds out who it is, and then they track them and eventually find them. And so where the sample ends is they have 2 in custody.
Okay.
So there's 3 on the loose.
Okay.
And so I assume they're going to try and figure out,
Where they are.
yeah, and that whole thing. But it was well done, and it's different than as usual, because he writes legal thrillers typically, and this is something different. And Camino Winds had popped up on something of mine, and which prompted me to go back to the first one. And so Camino Winds by John Grisham.
Well,
If
and it's funny you mentioned that you started reading that one because when I was flipping through audiobooks, it was one of the first ones that was available. And I had looked at it. and kind of
Camino
thought of-
Winds or Camino Island.
Excuse me. Camino Island. The
Well,
first
if you
one.
would get that and you would listen to it, then you could tell me what happens, and I don't have to read it.
Maybe if I want you to read
And
it.
I can cut right to the chase and go to Camino Winds. But it
Or
might
I
be
could
July.
listen to it and keep it all to myself.
Why would you ever want to do that?
I don't know, but I could.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could.
Last one I'll talk about quick. I finished a trilogy. I've talked about the first two. The series is called Truly Devious. The final book in the series is The Hand on the Wall, and this is the girl who goes away to the private school up on the mountain, and because she wants to solve this 30, maybe it's actually older than that, because I think the original kidnapping took place in the 20s, and so she's going to solve it. And through the first two books, with people getting hurt and killed and strange, terrible things happening, the third book is the wrap-up, and it finds her and her friends trapped at the school during a snowstorm with the bad guy trying to finally bring to an end what actually happened and how everything wraps up. I thought it was a great wrap-up. I thought it was a great way to end this series.
And only
a trilogy. And really, I don't think that there's any way that... Well, actually, I think it probably could have been a standalone book if you would have cut out a few crimes and maybe a murder or two. But they don't do that now. You want to make them as long as you can. But so this is a 3-book and done trilogy. Who knows, maybe they'll branch off and do other characters. But I thought it was really good.
What was it again?
The series is called Truly Devious, and I believe that's the title of the first book. And the last, I don't remember what the title of this. The second one is something about a staircase, and then the third one is The Hand on the Wall is the title of the book. So kind of a female type Sherlock Holmes type main character. But I really enjoyed them, and I'm excited to see if that author will come out with another series I can listen to. But we have reached the end of our time for this week.
When you're having fun, it zooms by.
It does. So we will wrap it up here, and we will see you again next time. So reach out to us on Facebook and Instagram, or send us an email at offtheshelfbooktalk@gmail.com, and we will see you next time. See ya.